As the host of Neutralize the Mama Trauma podcast, I am delighted to be able to bring you this podcast. My name is Wendy Lopez, and I would like to introduce myself to you. I specialize in helping people overcome their emotional blocks through different techniques, through emotional empowerment coaching and compassionate healing light facilitation. As a mom who has experienced narcissistic trauma, I help moms eradicate self-doubt in order to regain self-confidence to elevate their status both at home and at work. In our podcast, we discuss people's struggles, triumphs, and failures. We dive deeper into self-love, self-compassion, self-acceptance, and mindful, holistic tips. In every episode, I hope that you can take a golden nugget of advice and apply it to the journey of motherhood in order to raise your level of awareness. Welcome to Neutralize the Mama Trauma podcast, where you find natural resources helping you find creative mental thought advice from experts on past pain, narcissistic experiences, and trauma. Michelle Bateman, we are happy to have you here today, and I'm going to introduce you a little bit so the audience knows more about you.
Thank you.
Michelle Bateman went from overwhelmed single mom to the founder and CEO of Soul Journey. She became a confidence and clarity coach, international speaker, and facilitator that empowers women and soulpreneurs to gain clarity in their life and business. Michelle helps them bust through their fears and doubts so they confidently walk in the room knowing their value. Her authentic and aligned leadership inspires women to fully step into who they were created to be and gives them permission to show up and shine. Three-time nominee of Entrepreneur of the Year, Michelle's proven system provides clarity, breakthroughs, and spiritual awakenings to create a life and business you love. Her super successful Soulful Impact Business Academy helps new and struggling entrepreneurs create a solid blueprint to grow their business without all the confusion and overwhelm. Michelle will help you elevate your life, relationships, and business with fun and ease. Michelle, welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad that we talked a little bit before the podcast and figuring out like what we wanted to really address. And I feel like your story is really amazing in how you were able to so quickly move from where you were to where you manifested where you wanted to be. So can you share with us how you got here and your struggle and to get here?
Yeah. So, the first really traumatic thing that I went through was, I was the little girl that watched Disney and waited for her prince to come and thought that you got married and you have kids and you live happily ever after. And when I was pregnant with my second daughter, I ended up going through separation and a divorce. And I just realized when things happened, I couldn't do this anymore. And so with a 3-year-old and pregnant, I had to start my life over again. And it was really extremely challenging, but I focused on my kids and what I needed to do. And, 3 years later, I thought, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to get married. I feel like I'm going to do it different this time.
Okay.
And then, literally the day after we got married, he was living his own life. He was living separately to me. And I was just like, what just happened? How the hell did I get here again? And so I had sold my house. I was a stay-at-home mom with little kids. And so I just kind of resigned myself to the fact that this was going to be my life. I would probably never be happy again. And I just had to kind of suck it up and deal with it. And so that went on for 8 years where we lived on separate floors. We never talked to each other. We really had no communication. We had an address, and that was about it. And there was a moment where I was so angry. I remember wanting to smother him with a pillow. And it really shook me that I had become this person that was so bitter and angry that I didn't recognize anymore. And I did not like myself. And it was in that moment I decided I probably need to leave because this isn't good for anybody living this way. And the irony of the whole thing was at the time I had a friend who was happier dying of ALS than I was living my life. And I was like, well, if he can figure out how to be happy dying, I should be able to figure this out. And so I started reading books.
Wow.
I know he was the most amazing human to be fully paralyzed in his body, not being able to speak or eat or move. And all he could do was blink. But what he shared from his heart was so empowering to so many people to live differently, that we have the choice of what we think and what we believe to be how we see the situation that we're in. And literally what I would say about my life all the time was that it sucked. It wasn't fair. It was hard. I hate this. And so of course I felt crappy when that was how I was talking about my life. And when I saw how he was speaking, being grateful and finding the positives in his life really inspired me to begin to make those changes. And so from the books that I read and the podcasts I listened to and the healers that I worked with, I began to change what I thought, what I believed, and what I said about my life. And I adopted this new mantra that even more amazing things are going to happen for me. And so in doing that, I was at the right place at the right time, and I landed the job of my dreams. And I was at the right place at the right time that I found this amazing house to rent and move into. And then when that whole deal fell through, I wanted to buy the house we were renting. That fell through. And I remember being in tears at work one day. And one of the girls was like, "Oh, I'll give you my realtor's name." I emailed him literally that day. He sent me a bunch of listings. And at the bottom was a place I had already looked at that I wanted. And it had the extra bedroom for my other daughter that I needed. And so literally the next day I went to go see it. The next day I bought it. So that all happened within 2 years of leaving. I lived in that rental house for a year. I bought my house a year later. And so from thinking I'd never be happy again to having the job of my dreams, the house of my dreams, I found healthy love for the first time, and everything in my life had changed. And when I went back and I read my journal, all of the things emotionally and physically that I needed and wanted, I wanted peace, I wanted joy, I wanted happiness, I wanted a home, I wanted this job. I crossed everything off within a year, literally by changing what I thought, what I believed, and what I said. And it blew my mind. And I thought, why don't we teach other people this? Why didn't we know this growing up? Why did I have to struggle for so long when it was actually fairly simple? Just nobody teaches us.
Right. So you mentioned healers, and I do some healing myself. So I would like moms to know, in your perspective and your experience, how did you come across finding someone in the healing space, and what made you pursue that? Did you already have some of that already in your life, or was that something new you were going to try?
So in my early 20s, I worked for a Tony Robbins franchise. And so I had done a lot of mindset work when I was younger. And then, life happened, kids, marriage, all of things. And I kind of let a lot of it go. And so when I was manifesting what I wanted in my new life moving forward, I was like, I really want to get back into that. I remember how it made me feel, and I really loved that. And so a girlfriend, brought me to this one healer that she had met, and we started doing inner child work and exploring that. But the irony of just setting that one little intention of, I want to get back into personal development, the job that I landed, the owner had done all of the Tony Robbins stuff, was into mindset. She was also into spirituality, crystals, energy healing, all of the things that I didn't even know about. And so she brought all of that into my life. Because I set that one little intention, and literally we were passing in a hallway and she overheard a conversation where I said I was looking for a job, and she came back in and found me, and it was she was looking for exactly what I was looking for. And it was just instant click, and it brought me into the personal development. It brought me into spirituality and all of these awesome things that I didn't even know about. So it was so perfectly divinely inspired.
Right. And that is why I have this podcast. So moms can really truly see beyond the trauma. And I feel like your friend was such a catalyst in you seeing someone that had a different perspective in his challenge, and how you were able to change your perspective by his example. And this podcast are all about examples about how women can change, whatever you're doing, right? Because you were, like you said, you never saw yourself happy again. You were basically, rendered yourself to that two-story different living into manifesting in a matter of quick time
Yeah.
everything that was fulfilling your heart.
Yeah. It was wild. And so that's
Uh,
when I knew that I needed to share this with other women. And I remember at my work, I still loved the job that I was at. And I was like almost addicted to books and reading and this learning. Like it literally lit me up from the inside out. And we had this amazing Chinese doctor there. And I said, like, Gord, this is like an obsession. I just can't get enough. And he said, because you're destined for more than what you're doing here. And I'll never forget when he said that to me. And that
oh,
wasn't even a thought in
wow.
my head at the time. And then I was like, oh, maybe he's right. Maybe I do need to share this with other people. And that kind of planted the seed that created the momentum. But I also had the thought in my head of, I can't start a business. I'm a single mom. I have teenage daughters that shop at Sephora. Like I have a mortgage. This isn't realistic.
Okay.
And ironically, when you don't act, the universe kind of kicks you in the butt and tells you to hurry up. And so I
Yep.
ended up losing that job. We had a huge management takeover that was really awful and super unhealthy and toxic. And so I saw the negativity that was coming into my life, and it was changing me. And I knew I needed to leave. And then they just fired a whole bunch of staff with no reasoning. And so I was like, okay, well, the universe has a plan. There'll be another job. I'm not going to worry.
Okay.
And then there was nothing. There was literally crickets. And I was like, oh, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And 5 days before Christmas, Tony Robbins was coming to Calgary.
Okay.
And I knew I had to be there. So I took what little money that I had and I drove down. It was a blizzard and we were like freaking white knuckling it down on the highway the whole time, but I knew I had to be there. And he said to me, he's like, well, he didn't say it just to me, but I felt like it was just to me standing there. And I've never heard him say this since, but he said, stop making excuses why you can't do what you want to do most in the world. Draw the line right here, right now, and decide. And I was like, oh, okay. I decide I'm going to start my own business. And then I was like, I thought I was going to throw up. I was so scared. I was terrified, but I knew everything was happening for a reason. And that was what I needed to do. And so I took the biggest leap of faith in my life. And I said, okay, universe, I'm going to do what you're calling me to do. You need to figure out the rest.
And I love that you just share that, because I just want to speak to the moms that when you are in a relationship, you have to make a decision. And even as Michelle felt so sick to her stomach, I've been there before, where you have to make the decision to leave a relationship, and it feels so sickening to have to leave something that you're comfortable with, but it's toxic, it's abusive, and it's not only abusive, but I also believe if mom's happy, the children will be happier, and you will empower them differently than if you were living with that toxic person. But going
You
back
just
to,
breathe. After leaving, you can just breathe and you're not walking on eggshells and you're not worried about all of these things and you're not constantly disappointed and hurt. You can just create your own life on your own terms. And I loved the freedom to be able to do that for me and my daughters.
Yes. So going back to what you said and what you heard with Tony Robbins, I want the moms to realize to make the decision. Draw
And
the
he
sand in
says,
the line.
it's in the moment of decision that your destiny is shaped. It all begins with a decision.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's in the decision that your destiny is shaped. I love that. Wow, that is so empowering. I'm so glad that you did listen.
Me too. And
Yeah.
the irony is, all of those fears that we imagine, they're not actually real. We're afraid of a possible scenario, but we're not afraid of something real or tangible that actually has happened. That fear is only in our imagination. And so I want to say is none of those fears actually came true. So all of the things that you are holding yourself back because it might possibly happen didn't happen. And what happened was even more amazing things. The people in my life since I made those changes are the most amazing humans that I love with all my heart and soul. And I wouldn't be here surrounded by the people I am had I not made those decisions and choices. So to realize that what you potentially think could go wrong likely won't.
And I love what you said about fear is an imagination. And that is, remember, I was talking to you prior to the podcast and about with another guest that I had, and I asked her that question, that there is this waiting period that women go through. And then they come back to that abusive relationship, because I feel a lot of it is that waiting period is the fear paralyzes them.
Yeah, I can't. What if I can't? What if I thought we were going to live in a trailer, for crying out loud? Like, I honestly didn't know what my options and my choices were. And to go from thinking that to renting this beautiful, like 1,500 square foot house for me and my girls that was awesome. And we had room to run and play and do all of the things, to then a year later buying my own house. Like, none of that was even in my imagination. But the mantra of even more amazing things are going to happen for me was so powerful, because literally everything surpassed my expectations or my ideas of what it was going to be like.
Yes, yes, yes. And you mentioned too that in your case, when I was asking about the waiting and that holding period, yours was more financial. Can you talk to us about that and how you were able to, because I'm sure there's a lot of women too that have that. It's financial, that they either, they gave all their power away. They became a stay-at-home mom, and then the husband is the provider, and now they find themselves, how do I get out of this? And I need to leave. What was your situation as far as the money part?
So actually, there's two parts to that story. So first, I got really clear on what I wanted. So I made a huge list of the kind of company I wanted to work for, how far away it was, that I was going to have flexible hours, that I could still go to school and see my kids. Like, I was really, really clear. And I knew that I wanted to be around personal growth and personal development. So I made this very detailed list of what I wanted this new job and new experience to be like. And literally, I got it all. I live in a town outside of the city, and I didn't want to commute to the city for a job. I wanted to work in town. My job was 10 minutes away. I totally had the flexibility to go to the school when I needed to see plays and volunteer on field trips and change my hours when I came back. And so I got really clear on what I wanted, and I put it out there to the universe, and it went, okay, let's find you what you're looking for and bring it back to you. So first would be having the faith and the trust that something beyond the limitation of what you're seeing in your reality is possible. Getting clear on what that is, and then trusting that it's going to come to you.
Okay. And then, so when you were living with the husband, were you a stay-at-home mom without a job? Okay.
Yep.
So the next step for you was you manifested that job.
Yep. And it didn't happen overnight. So I worked a couple temporary jobs that didn't work out. So there was disappointment, thinking, maybe this will be it. Maybe now I can leave. And then, they didn't work out, but they were unhealthy, really toxic environments. So I'm really grateful. So just remembering, when doors close, they close for a reason. It wasn't meant to be where I was supposed to be. And then ironically, and this was so opposite of me, I found a job with a lady who was a solopreneur. She did marketing, and she was looking for someone to help her. So that was the job that she had hired me for. And I told her that literally the next day I was going to put my deposit on this house that I was going to rent. And so in doing that, the next day she calls me and said, you know what, my son just called me and said he wants to be partner in my business, and now I'm not going to hire you. I literally just signed a lease for a year. And she's like, I'll help you find a job. Don't worry about it. And the old me would have freaked out. The new me was like, you know what? I'm just trusting. I'm trusting that everything's going to be fine. It's all going to work out. I literally moved in, because I left within 2 weeks. Like, I found the house, I took possession in 2 weeks, and I was gone. It was very, very quick when I made that decision. And so I moved in without the job. but I had just this faith and trust. And so in that interaction of passing someone in the hallway that I had known, hearing that I was looking for a job, instantly within a week, I was now working at this new place that was completely aligned to who I am and what I wanted and everything that I had ever wanted. So just to know there might be some bumps in the road, it might not be perfectly smooth, but to not give up that faith, that trust that it's going to work out for you.
And that was what really set the wheels in motion for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, that's what you said. It's, it's going to take several things, or, things can happen in between, but setting the motion and it got you to where you needed to be. So that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. I just had this resolve, this knowing that, even though I was kind of knocked off course a couple times, I was like, no, I'm not giving up on this. I know this is where I need to be and what I need to do. And it's all going to work itself out.
Yes. Yes. And so now talk to us about how long were you at, working for a company, and then how it came about that you then started your business.
So I was there for almost 5 years in a senior management role. So I had moved up a couple roles as that happened. So I got a promotion. I was managing, and then we had a management takeover that was really unhealthy. And so I was literally doing 3 jobs. I was doing my job, the assistant manager job, and then they said, we're going to make you manager. And I said, okay, how much extra are you going to give me? And they said, well, think about it and we'll let you know. They literally didn't give me a dime. So I was literally doing manager, assistant manager, and marketing role in this company, burning out, feeling stressed out, not feeling appreciated. Like it was just so unhealthy. So it was about almost 5 years by the time that I left. And so I was definitely shocked when it happened and how they did it. It was awful. And they just said, we're not giving you any reason. You need to get out and we will courier your belongings to you. And I was like, wow.
After carrying all those 3 different titles and positions. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So 5 years, every friendship, every relationship I had in that building was gone. It was all over. And so I was like, who am I now and what's going on? But I had enough tools that it was hard, but I had the tools knowing that something better was coming. But then what I realized was I was taking too long to step into this role. And so the universe was like, well, either you go willingly or go unwillingly, but we're going to get you there one way or the other. And so when there was not a response back from anybody for a job, I started to hear, well, that's not what you're meant to do. A job isn't what you're meant to do. This is what you're meant to do. And so then Tony Robbins coming, hearing him say what he said, making that decision. And so I knew at that time, I didn't know how to start a business. I had no idea how to create a coaching business. So I started looking for a coach that did what I did, that could teach me how to do that. And I invested a huge amount of money in this coach. But I knew that if I needed to be successful at this for the rest of my life, I needed to invest. And so that investment was going to be the foundation to create success for me and my kids for the rest of my life. And it was literally the best choice I ever made. And I committed $10,000 to hire this coach on unemployment as a single mom. And again, that's when I said, universe, I don't know how I'm going to do this. You need to figure it out. And literally I was able to pay for all of it. And it was the most valuable information that I ever got to create a solid foundation for this business moving forward. And as I began to go out there, I saw the difference between people that didn't have a coach and people that did. And there was just a level of clarity and confidence and, being unstoppable when you had a coach that was coaching you, supporting you, believing in you, pushing you to be more than you think you can be. And so, that was really the best investment that I ever made. And, it's paid off because I now have women coming to me saying, I'm confident and I want to start this business, or I have this business, but I'm not really showing up in it. Can you help me? And so all of that investment that I took in that coaching and the training I took to grow my business, I took that and created a program for other women to now start their own business called my Soulful Impact Business Academy, where I give them the foundational steps to go through to create a successful business, to create a clear message, to grow that business and put themselves out there.
That's lovely. So I love how that then now you're fully working in what you're called to do, right? And at the same time, it got you out of corporate America, doing, I mean, that was very dumpy what they did to you. I had a similar experience to that, and that was really the route exit for me.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's, and it's a beautiful thing that I feel it's, your route was a little more direct than mine. So it's beautiful when people find you so they can have that direct route to go. I had to kind of piece it together, put it together, and then invest. And so it was a process. So from the get-go, it's such a gift to find someone that can do that for you.
Right,
So
because
that's a
I
beautiful
pieced
thing.
together this course, this learning, in my life coaching stuff. It was taking all of the things that I knew were amazing for me and putting it together and creating that program. And then again, with the business aspect of it, all the different things that I learned, I pulled all of the valuable things together, combined it with spirituality and, faith and the law of attraction and all of those things to create a different kind of business training, that it's not masculine energy or hustle mentality or anything like that, but it's coming from a place of serving from your soul. What is your calling? What is your purpose? What are you here to do? And when you focus on doing that, then the financial and the opportunities will come based on the energy that you're putting out.
Right. And so what tip can you give to a mom who finds herself probably not even able to see the next day how she's going to do it? What's something that she can take with her that's practical, and apply it, and that hopefully that it can make some type of a breakthrough layer where she's at?
Yeah. Is to just know that what you see in front of you right now is such a limited view of what is possible and what is out there. So just because you see what you see isn't your destiny, isn't the possibilities, to know that beyond that, I love the word infinite possibilities. When I heard that, my heart was just like, oh, wow, that's amazing. So to know that past this one spot that you're seeing, there's infinite possibilities out there waiting for you, that could be anything that you hope and dream that it could be, to just begin to start seeing past that finite reality that you're in and start dreaming of what could be possible. I was like, hopes and dreams, what are those? Like, I'm just a mom doing my mom thing. I didn't know I was supposed to still have hopes and dreams because my whole world was consumed by being a mom. But when I realized that I'm still my own person and I need to find out what lights me up, what brings me joy, what brings me happiness, so that I'm not just stuck in the situation that I'm in, that I can begin to create the things that bring joy, that bring happiness. I'm the one that gets to create that. It's not my partner. It's not my kids. It's not the world around me. It's not my job that's going to create that happiness and joy. It is my responsibility to find out what that is for me and how do I create that. And so that was literally the biggest thing that I learned, is I was the co-creator of my reality. I didn't have to wait for things to come to me. I could intentionally create them and make them. And that's where I felt empowered, that I didn't have to just sit back and be on this, shitty train to life that I felt like I was stuck on. That I needed to take charge of, okay, well, who am I? First of all, I had to figure that out. Who am I? What do I like? What do I love? What brings me joy? What do I want my life to look like? I was really clear on what I didn't like and what I didn't want and what wasn't working, but I had no clarity on, well, what do I want? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And so that's literally where I start with all of my women is who are you and what do you want? What brings you joy? And how do you start bringing that piece by piece into your life, knowing that you get to create that based on what you're focusing on? So literally changing what you think, what you believe, and what you say. And I wrote in my journal on one side, and I drew a line, like this really thick line, to say, I'm drawing the line and I'm not going back to this narrative that I had for my life. And it was like, my life sucks, it's shitty, I hate it, blah, blah, blah. And on the other side, I wrote, what is a more positive way that I can talk about that. And so it wasn't super positive at the beginning, but it was like, this is unfortunate. This isn't what I planned, but as I got better at it, I could be more positive to say, you know what, I see this happen for a reason. I'm grateful for that divorce now and those experiences, because it was the catalyst that had to shake me up and get my attention to say something needs to change. And we don't change when it's mediocre. We change when it gets really bad and really hard. And so to be grateful for that catalytic point, because that's the turning point that'll say, enough, I can't do this anymore. I need to do something different. So really look at, what am I thinking? What am I believing? And what am I saying? And find a more positive way to talk about it.
So what I'm hearing is, for you, journaling was key.
Oh, huge. Journals, like stacks of journals. And I didn't journal before that, but I literally just was like, what do I want? What do I need? And I wanted peace. I wanted love. I wanted happiness. I wanted fun and joy in my life. And the more I focused on that, the less time and energy I put on what wasn't working and what I didn't like. Right. So it's like getting in your car. You can't drive that way when you're focused this way. You have to be focused on where you want to go. But we're so backwards thinking, of stuck in the past of, this doesn't work. I hate this. I don't like this. And we're just going to keep going in that direction. We have to look towards what we want instead of what we don't want.
And you mentioned something that I want to go a little out. So to go a little further out in your journey, you mentioned love, where you found a healthy love. How far after that did you find that healthy love?
I found that within a year of leaving. So
really? So like kind of like the love and the house where you were renting?
The love, the
kind of all came together?
The weekend that I was moving into the house, about a month after I bought my house. And the story was really cool. So my friend who had ALS before he passed away, I said, okay, when you're gone, you have one job, you have to find me a good guy. And at his funeral, I met this guy that I was with for almost 5 years. And it was my first experience of healthy love.
Okay.
And so that taught me so much on how to show up and how to work through the blocks and the unhealthy things that I had been through in so long, that I was able to work through those in that relationship, which then prepared me for the relationship that I'm in now with my fiance. And he coaches men and I coach women, and we do ancestral healing and we work together. But I needed that experience to be who I was, to show up in this new relationship.
See, this is what I wanted to talk about that too. It is so exciting, right? And this is why I love this, because it's like the gratification of going through those such challenging lessons that we can't see, and for beauty to culminate, and for the woman to receive what she deserves. Is such a gift that we can give ourselves. And not only are we healing ourselves, but we're healing like the future generation of women.
Absolutely.
And children. And that is how we make it and create such a better today and tomorrow. So with that, I just want to thank you. I want to end it on that note, because that was so beautiful how it all renditioned together. So I appreciate you being on here. I appreciate you sharing. And I will put down the link so the women can reach out to you, seek you out if they feel resonated with you, so you can help them along their own journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to Neutralize the Mama Trauma podcast. If you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. It would also mean the world to me if you're able to take a moment and rate and review my podcast on how it was helpful to you. Also, please connect with me on my social media platforms. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next episode.